As someone who wants to start goat farming in 2023, or you've been doing it in 2 years now, why goat farming?
Okay, goat farming, if you notice, the demand is just so much. Just take an example of goat meat in the market. Go and ask.
Yeah.
You realize that it is 15,000 a kilogram.
Yeah.
But that's in Gulu. In Kampala, it's way much more. And if you go to even supermarkets and these class areas, it's even beyond 20,000 just a kilogram.
Yeah.
Compared to say beef or any other animal.
Yeah.
So you realize that the demand is just too much, both within Uganda, but also in the region and internationally.
Yeah.
Whether you want to eat goat, whether you want to get goat for eating, buying slaughtered animal, expensive. Whether you want to access goats to start as a breeder, that one is even more expensive, because of course they'll sell to you as a breeder. But we don't have significant numbers for members out there. I keep on getting calls, people when they're saying, I would like to buy some goats. I always tell them that we are just beginning and we don't have those numbers that we can be able to churn out. So it's because I realized that, first of all, it's a very lucrative business and relatively much easier to manage compared to crop farming. Because if you have 200 goats, one herds person can be able to look after them if you fence off. Which is different from when you're, say, cultivating, say, 4 or 5 acres, you'll need a number of people. With goat farming, whether it is too much rainfall, whether it's too prolonged sunshine, the goats will be there provided they have the access to water and pastures. But when you come to the crop bit, then they'll tell you, we are not able to harvest because either the rain was too much or the sunshine was excessive. So now that's why you find that when you are choosing between crop and animal, I would encourage you to go for animal. It's way much better, and particularly goats, because that's what I'm dealing in now.
But well, that also brings me to my next question. You've been doing goat farming for 2 years. How many goats do you have right here?
We started with we have around 80. Around 80 goats.
And you started with 50 or 30?
Yes, I started with 50. Now the challenge was, I went and identified a he-goat. Now you realize that in most of these, because I bought local goats, but I wanted to bring in a pure, hybrid Boer goat to develop the genetics of these particular animals. By the time you bring that one, once it meets the local ones, then it will give you 50% Boer goat, and you keep on improving your herd. The more you improve on the herd, the more income it starts, earning. So, in that sense, I was able to identify a he-goat to bring on the farm. But you realize the he-goat I brought was not as active in terms of, mating with the females, because particularly where it was on the other farm, these breeders who have prominent farms and big numbers, you will find that if they have very good genetics, say he-goats, they'll isolate them and graze them alone as a batch of he-goats, because they don't want inbreeding, whereby the son comes to mate with the sister or the mother, So now they keep them separate. But in so doing, these animals tend to be a little bit docile. They are not, they are good, they can perform, but it will take them time. So you find I got a goat from such a farm, very good breed, but when I expected that it would be able to mount some of these goats, it was quite slow. And I lost quite a lot of time, because out of the 50, I think it was able to mate around 7 or 8, and yet there were many on hit, but it was just a non-performer. And because also I didn't have a second back in there, and so there was no competition. So now that means I had to remove the he-goats after 3 months, because for me I use the natural synchronization approach. Natural synchronization is where you bring in the he-goats at a particular time. You want the females to be mated at the same time, at the same period. So you remove the back and graze it alone. When it is time for, and you notice that they've given birth, you want these females to come on heat and start, conceiving. You introduce a period, he-goats into the herd for a specific period of time. So after losing 3 months and getting only 8 cases, and out of the 8, I also got some other challenges, some which were sick. I ended up having around only 5 that gave birth. So that whole season was kind of wasted. So I had to keep the bucks off and wait for another phase when these ones have given birth and they reintroduce. Because you plan it in such a way that your goats can conceive and give birth twice in 13 months. So that was the unfortunate bit. So the second round I was able to introduce the back plus also getting another second one to create a little bit of competition. And that's when now this he-goat performed very well. The one which was a little bit lazy at the start, even when I introduced the second he-goat, it became the master he-goat. Now it was very, very aggressive and active, and there was that competition. And so we were able to get quite a number of kids during the second round. And so we are at that level where we just need to keep on monitoring and be able to, grow the numbers over time. Yes.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's great. And it has been a learning process. I believe by now you've learned a lot. Now you're doing the right thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's really good.
Because from that, once you start this, I was very passionate. I came in with a lot of zeal, but had those challenges that were really bothering me. And so I was able, to document this and share it to some people. Some people have always wanted to come, and I tell them, no, I've not reached the point of welcoming people in the farm yet. We are still setting up, as you can see. It's really basic. Okay? So this one has to wait until we grow the numbers. But for those that want to find out more information, I've got, as I told you, the YouTube channel, Admix Farm. We've talked extensively about goats plus other things they can be able. But I can still elaborate more. For instance, when we were bringing in these he-goats, remember these are local breeds. Some of them are not as big. But because you have a pure Boer he-goat, and when it would mount, some of these goats had small wombs and were not of that size enough to carry the womb. So we had challenges of cases of abortion because it could simply not handle. Once you look at them when they're giving birth, the babies can be very big. Okay? So that one was quite another challenge. Then we also had the challenge of ORF. This is when goats develop sores along the mouth. And as it has sores, if it also starts breastfeeding on the mother, the breasts develop those sores. You find the mother doesn't want to breastfeed. It was a big problem for us here. Then the other challenge, of course, as I told you, I got some animals from across Karuma. When I brought them in, the environment was completely different. So there was a lot of cough and flu. Even after providing the medication, it was kind of chronic. I had to bring in an expert vet who really came and really did something tremendous, and we were able, to close that chapter. But goat farming is a very, very lovely enterprise, very nice, especially if you're passionate about it. But it has its own challenges which are manageable, because why I encourage people, why I started with first of all with the local goats, I didn't have that budget to start with the crossbreeds, because you find you either have to part with 500,000 or 800,000 per female goat, and which was quite expensive. So I had to go for the local ones and then introduce the he-goats. But again, the beauty with this process is that it gives you an opportunity to go through a learning curve. Because these pure breeds, once you have them, you really have to be very good at your game. Otherwise, you'll end up losing a lot of animals. So once they are here, and we kind of monitor on how they are behaving, the structure, whether it is adequate, why is it coughing all of a sudden, yet you have dewormed it. So you keep on observing and see how you can be able to improve on the performance of these ones. And so it becomes good, because so far here at least you have the 50% goat kids. Some of the mothers are 50%, but they were sold to me as local goats and so forth. So it's important as we journey to start doing the record keeping and get to know how these animals are progressing and be able to produce quality goats, because here our aim is to do goats for meat production, but meat production as breeders. We want to be breeders, whereby in the future we can sell to you goats if you're out there and you want to be able to access, or if you want to start goat farming. But goats that you're going to rear for purposes of selling out as what? As for meat production. Because there are those who do it for for milk production.
Yeah.
Which is a different case.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Now, as someone who is watching us right now, maybe wanting to start goat's farming, and then one of the big questions may be, I know there are different types of goats, like you said, we have the local ones, maybe the crossbreed, something like that.
Yes.
You decided to go for local one.
Yes.
Why did you decide to go for local one, and maybe what are some of the types that someone should choose when they want to venture into goat farming?
Okay. Thank you so much, Charles. One, it's because I didn't have enough money. I would have gone for the a blood percent of the hybrids of up to a certain level to start from there.
Yeah.
Because when you start with goats that of improved blood, say 50% or 75%, when they give birth to young ones, first of all, those young ones grow very fast because those young ones, once they eat the pasture, they have the high conversion, rate or ratio of the pasture. So you find that a goat, a 50% goat bloodline will grow quite fast, faster than one which is purely local, bred by a local he goat. But if this 50% also got a 100% poor back and it mates it, it will be able to produce a goat which is 75% bloodline. That one also grows way faster than the 50%. So when you are starting with goats, depending on what your financial capacity is, if you want to, go into the league of making money faster, I encourage you to go for goats that of a certain blood percentage. It will affect you budget wise, but at the same time, once you start selling, you are able to recoup this money very fast. Because I think a 50% goes for around 400,000 if you're a single goat when you're selling to a breeder. And then if it is 75%, goes up to around 800,000 a single goat. So there, if you're there and you want to grow animals for breeding, then I prefer, if you have the money, go for the improved breed. If you don't have the money, just go for the local breed and be able to improve over time. But also the local breeds gives you the opportunity to study and understand the animals. Now, there are two types or approaches when you're doing goat farming. If you're going to do free range, just like we are doing, then even when you start with the local breeds, you are good to go because you're not going to be bothered about harvesting, storing, managing the pastures. You just release, because remember the local ones have lower conversion rate of the pastures. That's why they are slow to grow and so forth. So, but if you're going to go for zero grazing, I wouldn't advise you to go for local goats, because as I told you, they take forever to grow. Even if you are improving, yes, I would prefer you start with goats that are either 75% bloodline and then introduce 100% he goat. They will give birth to an 87 point something, offspring. That one will grow very fast. You really see when you come back after a month and you look at it when it is actually growing. After say 8 to 9 months, it will be as big as almost as the mother, and you can be able to sell it off. And you can sell it off quite highly. I told you, so above 600,000 a single goat. So you realize that if you are doing zero grazing, if you have the money, go for the hybrid, the improved one for zero grazing. If you don't have even zero grazing, it's not going to be very good for you. I wouldn't encourage you. I would encourage you to first save. There's no way you should start goat farming on zero grazing and you want to start with local. That would be showing some level of unseriousness. Now, but if you have free range and you still want to do improved version of goats, that's even better. Because then you can be able to straight away rear them. But for those ones, I would encourage you to at least put up a raised goat structure, because then they'll not slip down, they'll not have challenges of access to all these environment that may be a problem in terms of providing jams and so forth.
That's for the hybrid one?
Yeah, for the hybrid ones. Even the local ones if you can, but of course for them, they are hardy, they are more strong. Even us, as we try here, we hope to improve our structures. As you see, this is a kind of a makeshift, but it serves the purpose. What is important, shelter your goats from strong winds and rainfall. The rest, they'll stay well,
Yeah.
provided you clean the place every day. As you can see, the place is hygienic.
Yeah,
we try to make sure that we sweep. And so that is it. So those are, but in the, among the local ones, we have the Kigezi breed, we have the Mubende breed, and then we have the small East African goats. So now the Kigezi ones, you find they normally have feathers around behind here and on the back. Then you just know that is a Kigezi breed. The Mubende, they're normally black or black and white and shiny, you know, coat, and they can be quite of a big size and can be very good. The small East African, as you know, it's a small East African goat, local but also small. They take forever to grow. It wouldn't be good. And if you're to cross and you bring a hybrid and you want to introduce a small East African goat, then it's going to be a challenge. It will even fail to push the baby even when it is well grown, because it is of a small size. But among the improved goats, we have the hybrids. We have the Boer goat, which is my favorite, and then we have the Kalahari. I also hope to have some Kalaharis in future by introducing a Bako too, and then we have the Savannah. The Boer normally is white and then a brown head. Grows very fast, very good, good high grass conversion rate. The same applies to the red Kalahari. The red Kalahari is just basically brown, the whole of it, but its features and physical and characteristics are like that of a Boer. Then we have the Savannah. The Savannah is generally white, and it also grows very well like the other three. Only that for it, when it comes to the male, it has a very high libido. You'll find that a male can be able to serve 50 goats. But for the Boer and the red Kalahari, those ones go for maybe 30 females. You see? But in terms of growth rate and so forth, they all perform well. And so you can be able to choose and say whether you want to try all the three, or you want to start with one breed over the other. For me, I just like the Boer. That's why I went for it. But I also want to bring in the red Kalahari in the future when funds, allow. And then take it on from there.